Well, I would like to welcome everyone to the virtual lounge, and our topic today is Beyond Making It Work. We've got some faculty from each of the different colleges, and we just want to hear from you. What was it like for summer school? What did it? What worked and what didn't? How could you go beyond making it work? I know in the spring, so many of us we're just trying to make it work. We went online, we weren't expecting it, and then we were online for the remainder of the semester, again, not expecting it. And so what did it take to make it all work? And this is just an open discussion today. And so I thought maybe we could start with Ines, ladies first. And Ines, I don't know if you've got some thoughts together or if you want to maybe just give us kind of pros and cons or what did work and what didn't work. I'll let you start off and take it from here.
Well, thank you very much for having us. Welcome, everybody. I present myself, Ines Aguirre. I teach finance since 2013 now. And, you know, my first time teaching online was like, I think the majority of us, it was, I think Norita joined. It was this spring. And the one thing I can share about summer teaching is it was not brutal compared to the spring teaching, because that was really like the switch, and you know the way students took it, it was a little bit brutal, but then summer was much smoother. That was my personal experience, at least. So I felt students were more ready. They kind of knew what they were expecting. So since the beginning, they knew the format more or less, they knew the type of assessment, they were more ready, and that made it much easier compared to my spring experience. But overall, it was not too bad. Honestly, I mean, it wasn't badly perceived, let me put it that way. Maybe I got lucky enough because I had as part of my PhD, you know, I had a seminar for a PhD seminar, and part of it, we did part of it, not all of it, but part of it was online teaching. So it was like kind of an introduction to the different techniques and stuff, but I did not practice on that, and all my teaching was one-to-one, and spring was really my first experience. Maybe the assessments part is where students had most of the commands, and then another thing, to me at least, the challenge was to keep students engaged. The student engagement was the part I worked on the most. So I had to do different activities. I had to, you know, like diversify, as we say in finance, to keep them engaged and to, you know, keep the lively session and, you know, going on. So
could you maybe share, was there something, an activity that you thought worked really well, or something that we could replicate, something that you would suggest?
Well, first I tried to have them all present. So I tried to make sure that they come. I know it's a little bit difficult when it is an online teaching, because you know sometimes they can even put the screen on and they can put their computers on, and then they are, you know, somewhere else, or they can be here physically and they are not here. So I tried to keep discussions, you know, asking questions. I used a lot of polls. Groups, I divided them in groups, gave them activities, you know, ask them, like, you know, trying to keep them entertained. Sometimes, you know, I tried it all, and at the end, the feedback was positive. You know, they liked the atmosphere. It was good.
Okay. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to turn on your mics. This is as much of a discussion and an ongoing conversation as it is just necessarily hearing one of these people speak. Oscar, do you tell us a little bit about your summer experience?
Sure. I mean, I agree with Ines in the sense that the students were mentally ready for this. What happened in spring was obviously it was a havoc, but summer they knew it was going to be online, and I think that had a very big positive impact on their perceptions, which made things easier. And also, from our perspective, we knew it was going to be online. The preparation that I had to go through, it allowed, I think, for a more fruitful experience in general. And I don't know if it was also because they were taking fewer courses, they were more mentally present. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. To be honest with you, this was the first, I've been here for 6 years, this was the first time I taught summer courses, and they were super motivated. I'm like, wow, okay, this makes my life very easy. And I also agree with Ines in the sense that for the most part, the biggest challenge of teaching online is that because you can't see all of your students, classroom control, keeping them engaged, and making sure they're there. I think this is the biggest challenge. I taught a writing course, therefore, in terms of the content goes, it's not very difficult to deliver online compared to, let's say, a lab, or something that requires hands-on, physical. So from that perspective, I was lucky. But still, when it comes to student engagement, that was the biggest challenge. So what did I do? This was something I normally do anyway when I teach like face-to-face classes. I start the class the first 2 minutes. I do attendance questions. They like that. So little things to keep them engaged, little things that require them to turn their microphone on and say something. And I make the point, even this week, I told my students, I said, I need your microphones working. Because I want you to at least, I understand if you cannot turn on your camera for whatever reason, you don't have to, but you should at least have your microphones working because that increases their level of participation. It's good for me. I get bored here looking at a screen and talking to myself. So I don't want to just read chat messages. When I ask a question, when I want them to elaborate, sometimes, just like most of us, I put them in groups, they do brainstorming, but I want them to report verbally. So that element was there. I think that was quite useful. And every now and then, if I needed to ask them a question on Blackboard Collaborate, there's this multiple question and polling functions. I use them, and I found out that if you go back to the session details, those polls are there. You can see. And I told my students, I said, look, I'm going to just ask you random questions. I don't know, every 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, because summer sessions are longer, right? Towards it. So that's how I know if you just turned on the screen and went away, or if you're still there present. And I didn't leave it on forever. If I asked a question, it was there for 30 seconds, and then they were supposed to quickly respond. And so I said, this is going to affect your participation score. I need to see that you're present, you're listening to it and participating. So it was one thing. And then sometimes I try to use, there are so many of them, but Socrates is one of them, like online quiz thing, just for reviews and stuff, just to keep them busy. And again, the rest of it is similar, using breakout groups. But again, to wrap all of this up, I think two elements made a difference, requiring them to have a working microphone and reporting things verbally, as well as using things like questions and polls, every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just to make sure that they're there, they're listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I heard somebody speak of a teaching method recently. They called it 10 and 2. And it was the idea that I would speak for 10 minutes and then the students would speak for 2. And so, like you just said, going back and forth and being sure that they're engaged. And yeah, we get tired of talking to ourselves.
Having a real interaction,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Samar, tell us about your summer experience.
Okay, hello everyone. Actually, I do agree with my colleagues in many points that it seems to be shared among even different colleges. And the point that I need to start with is the mental readiness of the students. I think this makes a lot of difference, because in the summer there was no choice and they were not happy with the online. But having the summer semester itself is optional, being online or not. So they basically they need to take the courses, and in addition they know it's going to be online. So this made a difference, and even I felt it in my student evaluation, because I was the same person, I applied the same techniques, but it happens for the first time to get very bad evaluation in the spring. So I even decided to exclude them from my record for no reasons. I tried to study them seriously, but I found the points were hidden behind the online, but they take it to me. They thought that it was me who was a barrier between them and the to getting engaged and so on. So I did almost the same, but in the summer I really gained back my good evaluation. So I got very good evaluations. They were very happy. In terms of the learning outcomes, I can see that they really learned very well, even better than the regular semester. I tried to tweak the exams a little bit. This is something that we need to speak about. The main challenge, away from all of the good things to do in order to get them engaged. But I need also to speak about the exams, and also need to hear from my colleagues, because it's still the exams need a lot of effort and time to be fairly assessing what students do, and to eliminate any kind of illegal or dishonesty or whatever. So the first thing that I really did, I start with the last thing actually you mentioned, which is the 10 plus 2. It seems that I applied it without knowing the rule, because I generally do not speak more than that, but I have to stop and come back to them and even enforce them to get them their voice heard, because sometimes they don't have the initiative to speak. Once one student starts to speak, others are also encouraged and so on. So I think this very good strategy is not to speak too much, and you can feel it very well by feeling that you are isolated. Once you feel you are isolated, it means that there is no connection between you and the students, and there is nothing being transmitted. So I think it's the time to just stop and get the students back. So the first thing is the engagement, and the engagement needs that you encourage using the microphone or even writing questions, open a kind of open discussion, and try to, let's say, get who's with and who's against. So this also encourages students to be divided into different groups based on the argument that is being there. Um, I don't need to repeat any good items, that because my colleagues really mentioned very important points, so I agree with them. So whatever they mentioned, I think it proves to be very efficient. But in general, I think I was very satisfied with the experience. Nevertheless, I don't like to continue with online teaching. I like normal classes to be back. So any good thing we mention about online, just to make our current life better, but this doesn't mean by any means that we need to continue like that. And even the students were very frustrated in the fall semester, because they need to come back. We have really a beautiful campus that everybody is missing. We don't miss it, but students miss the campus. So all in all, I think it was very good experience. I had some problems with the exams. I needed to spend more time, and still I have some work to do with the exams in order to get a fair assessment of the students. So thank you very much for following, and then we will continue exchanging ideas as the meeting goes on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Great. So we have a brief summary. Hey, Norita.
Hey, good
Hey.
to see everybody here.
Yeah.
I just have
Hi.
a follow-up question to everybody here, if you don't mind, Cindy. Thanks for taking over, by the way.
Yeah.
First, I have a question for Samir, because I just joined in, and I heard you were saying that in general your students perform a lot better online. Can you elaborate that a little bit more?
Nurita, can you please repeat the question again?
Yeah, because you were saying that in general your students perform better in the summer semester online. Can you elaborate on that a little bit
Yeah,
more?
yeah. I said that they performed better compared with the students from the spring semester. So I taught the same course again, so I can have a common base for comparison. I'm the same person. I teach the same way, but I can see that they really accomplished much better in summer. I think the reason because they really wanted the course in the summer. They need to graduate or they need to pass it. So they have real motivation to finish it, and also they were aware of the online teaching, so they were prepared. So I can definitely say they did much better in summer compared with the spring.
So it's basically you're saying that it's about the attitude of the student itself, right? It contributes
Yes,
the overall
this is
success of the
true,
course.
true. However, I also do not deny that we as faculty, we learned from the experience of the spring, and for sure we improved also.
Yes.
I don't say that we were rigid and we were exactly the same, but I say that for sure we did something better because we learned from our experience. We learned from what worked and what did not work. This feeling of, I think you have a survey, one question was about the field isolation. This is really true. Sometimes in the spring, I feel that I'm isolated, and I feel that uh, um, there is something in that sense that there is nothing coming out of you and there is nothing coming in from the students. You feel that you just speak and there is no effect, there is no impact. For us as mechanical engineers, we say that the system is not working because the system is a kind input-output relationship. So if I have an input, there must be an output. So I see that the system is not working.
Mm.
That's it.
Interesting, interesting. Thank you. I'm
Thanks.
just gonna
Let me
like,
jump in.
yeah.
I can jump in here. There was a point we were saying regarding the student engagement, and in fact, because in a one-to-one session, we were seeing our students, and we make a lot of effort to retain the names and to put faces on names, and this is how we know our students. Unfortunately, this is not possible now because it's online and we do not have all our students at the same time. However, one small trick I did, which I liked actually, and I reinforced this semester,
Mhm.
is that I asked them to put picture files on iLearn. That was number one. It was really helpful. At least I get to know who is talking, who takes the mic. Of course, before starting the session, I make sure that they all have their mics activated, and I still call them by name and make sure attendance is there. So I do attendance by voice. So now the effort is going through vocal recognition more than it is on a facial recognition. So I work a lot on my vocal recognition skills. So I try to recognize them by voice. I also let the video open. So I allow them to share their videos if they want to participate, for example, and that they are comfortable sharing their videos. I allow that for them, and they can that way speak and have their picture shared with all their friends, with the audience, with everybody who's there, to enhance interaction. And that's working really well. That's breaking the ice. We get the ice, we get to know each other's better, and they like it. They like it.
I found that my students are more likely to turn on their video in the breakout sessions. And I don't know why that is, but whenever I send them to breakout groups and I ask them, even if it's just a get to know you question, even if it's a simple kind of icebreaker type of question, I encourage them to turn on their mics and turn on their videos, and they will.
Yeah, actually, they asked me to turn on the feature that says to allow the videos. In the beginning, it was off for me because I said, I gotta respect privacy. Maybe there are some girls who will not feel comfortable, and I do respect a lot that part. So it was not activated. But then, to my surprise, they asked me to allow videos, and they were very, very comfortable. And they wanted it. They really wanted that interaction. So, I let them, be. And then that, along with the polls, for example, I would launch a poll. I would have them in two groups, and then, that's how I start class discussion. So I take volunteers from each group and we exchange ideas. And this is where, it's useful to have the videos on, and, the class discussion goes on, and it's working.
I'm glad to hear that, Ines, because one of the point that we discussed earlier a few weeks back as well was the fact that students are not, usually willing to share the camera. So because I guess that's one of the most important thing when you get to see them, like whatever that we're doing right now, is so much easier for us to exchange ideas and to communicate as well. And most of the time, students are a little bit reluctant to turn the cameras on. I mean, even this week, I'm not very
I
sure how
agree.
many of you actually had the students who are more than happy to turn the camera on. So yeah, that's
I
kind of.
agree, and yeah, I agree. And actually, I try to make them comfortable. And when they see their peers doing it, that's how they get encouraged. True. In the beginning, like I remember the first two sessions, for example, I had some who were willing to do it. I opened it for them. I allowed the option for them. That's how it came to me. But then, true, I had some students, especially females, who who were not willing to do it. But afterwards, little by little, when they were some other people doing it, they saw other girls doing it, it started to come, and they follow each others. So I think it's mainly the effort, like the effort is on us, and that's where so it's tiring. I can say that, like summer teaching or spring or all of it, online teaching in general, most of the effort comes on our shoulders, and it's most of the energy has to be put from our part. So we have to encourage them, we have to put them comfortable, and make sure that they are comfortable when they share their videos, etc., etc. So true, they were reluctant in the beginning, but we make the effort and we encourage them, and we try to encourage them to do that. I agree.
They don't want to show their videos because they want to be on their phones and do other things while they should be paying attention to class. I mean, I mean, it's not privacy like in 99% of the cases. It's that they don't want to be held accountable for what's happening immediately in their engagement in the course.
Yeah, agree.
True.
That's why sometimes
True.
when we pull up the name.
This summer,
That's very true.
I taught two separate courses this summer. One where I required video every day for the entire class period. And I gave exceptions. I was like, okay, like once a week, if something's going on, you want to share it, fine. But it's not like you can come to my class in a live regular semester and not show your face. You come to class, you show who you are. And in the other course, I didn't require video. And the engagement was night and day difference. One of the other course was a bit larger. It was a 100 level course, and I didn't know most of the students in there. In fact, I'd never had, I think, any of those students previously. So I was, I guess, I don't know. I just decided for that one, I didn't want to make that requirement. But for my upper level course, I said, no, this is going to be a requirement. And all, like, the students even started reporting, like, yeah, like it forces me to stay engaged.
I would like to add, if you don't mind, following what Mark just said, forcing them, or at least encouraging them, really, it's the fine line between both. Not only holds them accountable, but it also, I guess, makes communication much better, because once they are introduced to each other and once they know each other, they start feeling more comfortable sharing their videos, talking to each other. Breakout groups becomes really a fun part of it. They love to be together. And I didn't teach summer myself, but I'm doing full teaching, online teaching for the first time since the beginning. This is the first week, and I could still see the fact that you encourage. And as Ines just said, when you take attendance, I just say, "Can I see your face? Can you put your camera on?" And that just, it feels, the next person feels the pressure to put their camera on. And I think this is a way to set the rules from the beginning. Not to have, as Mark just mentioned, not to have people hiding behind the fact that it is a factor of privacy, while it's not. For most part of it, it's really, as he said, because they don't want to be seen as they are fiddling with their phones and not paying attention or going back to their beds. And I could hear, so the minute I say, hello, Hadil, how are you? Can you put your camera on? And she tells me, I'm having issues. I know that it is because she just woke up actually. So I should say, okay, hold on a second. So I want you at the desk. Okay, and then I'll get back to you, and then I move on to the next person. So when you take attendance, in fact, you take attendance while encouraging them also to put their cameras on, and that sets the floor for the rest, I guess. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Great. That's a great tips, Raja.
I really like this idea of forcing the camera a little bit more. I mean, I think Ines is right that it puts a lot of pressure on us, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting every single class. Mark, I'm curious, how many times did you have to tell them, turn on your camera, turn on your camera, turn on your camera? But I think I'm starting to realize the value of that, especially as this semester goes on. In the spring and in the summer, everybody was forced inside. We were quarantined and you couldn't go anywhere. But I anticipate, we hope, right, that as time goes on, we can get out a little bit more. And so suddenly the students are going to be taking the class from a coffee shop, or they're going to be out with their phones. Or, suddenly I'm competing with a lot more things that I wasn't competing with before. And I do think if we force the camera on, they'll take it more seriously as well.
Yeah. Maybe you have something to say? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes. Hi. Sorry. I just wanted to ask my colleagues here. It's because I've been thinking about this, and Mark mentioned something about the number of students as well in a large class. In the summer, which was great for me, the class time is 1.5 hours, which was perfect. Now, in the fall, I'm teaching a 50-minute class, the UTR one. So do you see, since we're talking about engagement and being interactive online, do you see a relationship between the level of engagement and the length of the class time and the number of students? Like, how do you balance things out?
Okay, if you may allow you, Norita, please, to address this is a good question.
Yeah.
I think that in the summer, the 1.5 hours was really too long, so it was even more tiring to everyone. I don't think it was an advantage, just other than adding 3 days off for the students. But if we want to choose, I would not choose 1.5 hours in one shot because it's very tiring. So for the UTR, I have a UTR this semester. I think the 50 minutes is going very fast. So if we insist on this kind of, I don't know the effectiveness. It depends maybe on the field, but I can see the point of getting the students ready and just focusing on the class. But even with the 50 minutes, I don't think it will prevent the engagement, as you have to give them some, let's say, some task to do or some questions, and they come back. So still the time will not prevent getting the students engaged in any way. It worked, and having the students know in advance that it's short, so they are motivated because they know that they will not stay too long. So even mentally they are free, they are happy that it will not keep them staying long with the lecture. So the mode of engagement may be different, but I think it's working. There is nothing for the UTR to be really annoying. Raja, I think it's working. Thank you.
If I may intervene here, I totally agree with
Samir.
Yes, Samir, my bad. Because I have the same experience. In fact, I taught spring was my spring was MW, and then my summer, as everybody, it's standard, so long hours compared to the UTRs, and then this semester I am on UTR, and I could see the difference. And as I said, because to me the weight is really shifted on me. Like I feel. And maybe it's just my personality, it's just me, I'm super energetic, and in class, like, I try to keep them engaged by my own energy. Like I feel, you said, like, you feel the electricity is coming, the circuit is closing, it's not there is no isolation, the circuit is passing. I am the generator for that. That's just my personality maybe, or my teaching style, but that's how I do it. Like that energy that amount of energy, it's much easier for me to do it on a UTR session compared to the MW session, because I could feel like, if it's long hours, then, at some point the energy level will drop definitely. They will get tired. You feel that you are losing them at some point, and you have to do more of those pulls, more activities. You have to inject in more energy, compared to a UTR where it's only 50 minutes. They know it's going to go fast. They are there. They're still energetic. The moment we start, boom, it's over. So I think there is a lot more action, a lot more variety, many things going on, much more than a UTR schedule. At least that's my personal experience.
Yes, I agree with that as well. I usually do not like UTR classes because they are so much shorter. But I think it works wonderful when we move online. There is a question here from Yusuf about when you required people or students to turn on the camera. Do you ever have any technical difficulty at all, or no? Any of you?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? It cut out on me.
Yeah. One of the questions from the participant here is that when you required your student to turn on the camera, like what Mark did, and also what Ines and Raja mentioned earlier, did you ever experience any technical difficulty?
I was
Maybe.
using Zoom because I gave up on Collaborate after the spring semester. I have a pro subscription now that I pay for. And I didn't have any problems. I had 25 students for an hour and a half, all with active video. I didn't have perfect attendance probably on most days, but somewhere between 20 and 25 students, and I never had an issue. Some of them have kind of, it's not high definition video, but everybody was able to tune in. And, I would say maybe once or twice a week, a student would have some kind of connectivity issue, but that usually wasn't related to the software itself. It was usually because of their Wi-Fi connection or something. But, I would police it. I guess I would monitor it a little bit, but it wasn't like I was constantly checking to see if everybody's camera is on. But you just kind of know when you're flipping through the different images, or when you're noticing people on screen, you'll notice that somebody has been off of their camera for the entire class period so far. And if they haven't warned me ahead of time, I might just shoot a quick note if they're doing an activity and just ask them. Well, Zoom is great because you can ask people you can just press a button and ask someone to activate their audio or video. And so that's what I do. Like once I noticed that feature, it was just super easy. I would just click on the box that has their name on it and just ask them to activate their video. And if they were having some kind of issue, they would usually just they would shoot me a note. But I also told them that at the beginning of the summer, like, I expect you to have this active. If there really is some kind of issue during class, just shoot me a chat message. And that took care of most of it. And they handled that well.
Cool.
Yeah,
if I may interrupt.
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, with Blackboard Collaborate, you may experience problems that happen to me, especially when students are giving a presentation. Let's say they need to put up a PowerPoint and then have their video on for some reason. I mean, it works for most students, but we would have an issue, every now and then. So it's frequent actually on Blackboard Collaborate. So maybe I should also try Zoom like Mark does.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe Zoom would be preferred in terms of seeing everybody at the same time. But for me, for example, I do not require a camera because I understand that some, will truly be reluctant. But I encouraged it. Like, I strongly encourage that. But I do require to have their microphones on. And sometimes they try to get away. So they tell me, they send me a chat message and they tell me my mic does not work, for example, but I make sure it works and I make sure they are there at least vocally. And I make sure at least I hear their voices, they are present at least by voice. That is a requirement for me.
Great. Does anybody wants to add anything else? Cindy?
You mean to this point or in general for the
In general,
experience?
in general.
Yeah, I need to speak about the exams actually, because this is an important component that we are responsible professionally and ethically to reflect the actual level of the student attainment for and their grades and so on. So what I want to say is the using the lockdown browser and the webcam does not mean anything. If you feel that this ensures the dignity of the exam, then it's not right. Still, the students can do anything because they can use other devices. Of course, we trust our students, but I'm just speaking in general. If you think that someone wants to do it, he or she can do it very easily because there are other systems that are outside. So you lock the computer, that's fine, but they have different computers, they have different laptops, they have different mobiles. So of course, we learn from our mistakes, but what I would like to say is that copying any question from any book, this is an easy way for this question to be cracked. So the first thing is that even the text of the question has to be changed, because the way they search for the answer is just they write in any search engine like some part of the question and then they get the answers from somewhere. So the question has to be manipulated. Maybe the given information becomes the unknowns, and I'm talking about engineering, so I'm sorry, in general. So we manipulate the problem and then we change it, the nature of the problem, so that we can really assess the understanding of the solution. Also, the conceptual questions that can be answered and even graded by the system would be a good chance for getting some information as well. So I used both system grading, and I asked them to answer, to write their answers, to produce their solution, then scan and upload their answers, and I manually grade these questions, because we want to see the breakdown of the solution and the ideas and so on. So what I want to share is, do not trust these monitoring systems, that they really are not helpful. And the noise before the exams on the privacy also, I think the colleagues addressed this very well. It was only to avoid even the minimum amount of monitoring by claiming the privacy. And I really had this question to them. Let's say you graduate today and then Google company called you for an interview for the job. You would not do, or would you tell them that I'm not able to turn my camera because of the privacy, or you will be having all of your family to celebrate your interview for the job? So I think it was just something, but we need also to, I always feel that this is our responsibility to get them their actual grades they deserve, whether A or F. So this is really a burden on us that we have to assume and to do. That's it. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me add on this. Let me again jump in here, if you may. I joke with my students about academic honesty as well. I mean, it's not a joke, of course. We take this very seriously, and I make sure that fairness and academic honesty is respected. But I tell them, hey guys, listen, today you are students, tomorrow you will be managers, tomorrow you will be working, you will be professionals, and that's not gonna go through. So it's your choice, it's your call. You are investing your time, you are investing your money. Those are very precious resources. So it's up to you to make the best out of them, and he who cheats is at the end of the day cheating himself, right? So I try to raise their awareness basically, and I try to motivate them not to. I'm doing my best in terms of course, maintaining the academic honesty. I'm also using the lockdown browser. I do my best like everyone else. So I combine that with other tools, definitely. I tell them that I can call in anybody for an oral examination if I suspect anything, and I do, and I did. It took me a lot of effort, the scheduling and the time, and it was really, really time consuming, but it's something that at least make them less willing to think about any academic dishonesty from that sense. I also require that right after they submit their answers, if it's MCQ, for example, and that's online with the lockdown browser, with the responders on, right after that, I require them to work manually the questions, to scan the answers, and to post it for me on the on an iLearn folder, like, you know, after 5 minutes, say, or 10 minutes from the exam, just to make sure that they know how to work it. So, you know, I don't think there is a perfect way to prevent cheating when it comes to lockdown browser. But we do our best, and I think, again, all the burden is on us as professors. I hear you.
One of the features that I think is that in our psychology courses, particularly our 100 level courses, that we've had to implement is disabling the backtracking feature for questions. Now, we do mostly objective testing in our 100 level courses, and then we do more like essay and short answer testing in the upper level courses. It's a little harder to get the timing right with those essay and short answer questions. But you know, if you're an experienced teacher here, you know roughly how much time students need. But the disabling and backtracking is, like, we just found it was absolutely critical, because we didn't do that for our first online exam. And we found out that there was just a massive WhatsApp group where students were trading answers all throughout the exam. And I think that's inevitable. And part of the problem with that is that even students who really aren't inclined to teach, like they actually don't really want to be involved with that, start to feel the pressure because they start to see a large number of other students feeling like they're getting an advantage. And they don't want to be kind of, you know, left out of that. It's kind of like a rational you know, process that happens there in terms of making these decisions. It's not just a moral question. So I would, you know, what we do is we disable the backtracking, and we also put a lot of time pressure, and students complain about that. And unfortunately, I think the administration, I don't know, like, where this came from, but there seemed to be some pushback against faculty in the spring semester about the amount of time given for exams. And you know, the amount of time that I'm giving for an online versus an exam in the laboratory in the classroom is going to differ, partly because of this issue. And you know, faculty need to have the flexibility to make those decisions that are going to protect the academic integrity. And I think that had kind of switched by the end of the semester, where initially, you know, there was pushback from the students, and then there seemed to be pushback in the other direction, including almost seemed from the Ministry of Education to some extent, about taking the integrity seriously. And so backtracking and just, you know, warning students that they're going to have to be quick and on their toes during the exam has just been part of the way that we've been able to, you know, maybe make some progress in that. Sorry, I was trying to share my video too, guys. I'm not trying to hide like a student, but oh, now I can share it. It wouldn't let me share it earlier. I was trying to click on the icon, and it was
You
just
were
blocking
playing on
me.
your phone. That's what you were doing.
I was playing on my phone.
Great to see you, man.
Good example.
So, I don't know why, like, I was blocked from that, but anyway, yeah. I was on my phone too.
I saw Joseph chime in about the feasibility of replacing exams with projects, and that's exactly what I did in the spring. I just did this massive, you know, oh, the project's now going to be your final exam kind of thing, and gave some cases, and that's typically not how I had assessed in the past, but my students loved it. I think they got a lot more from it. They didn't, you know, our students, bless them, they study for the exam at the last minute, right? That's just what they do. And whenever I took that away and they no longer had the fear or the threat or whatever it was that they were going to have to cram for this exam, I found that they did give their projects a lot more, and that they did give these cases a lot more. And I think it benefited them. They had a better understanding of the material. They had a better application of the material. And so that was even eye-opening to me. I had thought in the past, oh, maybe I could, and I had never done it. Going online forced me to cases and projects, and I will keep that. whether we're online or in person. It was a good switch for me.
Great. Yes, I just want to add here because Yusuf and I guess one more, Ghazal, they are a student here. I mean, they are our graduate student and also work here at AUS as staff. So maybe it's going to be a good idea for them to share their experience with us. Yusuf? We can hear you if you're speaking.
Yusuf, your mic is muted.
So we do have issues with microphone. You proved the point. Okay, let's wait for Yusuf to come back here. Oh, okay. Do we have any other question here? Okay, Karen, do you want to be do you want to talk, Karen?
Well, I just wanted to ask about something that Mark was saying about when they gave exams, and he mentioned something about students having a WhatsApp group going on. So I was just wondering if that was also with Respondus Lockdown Browser.
Let's see. No, I don't think we used Lockdown Browser for that exam. So that would help, but I also know from talking with some students this summer that it's also not impossible with the WhatsApp, with the Respondus Lockdown Browser. You can have another computer with a monitor like right above it or something like that. The Lockdown Browser, if you got the video setting on, it does track their eye movements too, and there's a record of that. But it doesn't. Unless you're actually going, like, either monitoring that actively during the exam or going back and looking at the records for that, you're not going to notice that's happening. So I think Respondus helps, but as with everything else, there are ways around it. Most of the time, what we're doing right is we're just making it really, really hard to the point where they just say, "Oh, well, I might as well."
Okay, cool.
I agree with Mark that this is really the case that even if you see the case is, for example, yellow or even red, you cannot use this as a clue against the student that the movement, because students have different styles in their even writing. Some students would move their heads from time to time, so it's not. But the point that I want to add is it's good to design the exam to be as long as possible, so that the students or the good student would just finish the exam in time. Those exams that would be finished even 10 minutes before the time or something like that would be very likely for cheating. So I think the exams, I don't say to design them to be long, but they should be just solved within the time by good students. So whenever they feel that they are busy, they will not be having that luxury. Even the good students will not be having time to help others. So until they finish, the time will be out, and then I think it would be helping a hint as well. Thanks.
Yeah, and that just triggers another thought for me, which is one thing you can do, at least within iLearn, if you're giving your exam through Blackboard, is you can see how quickly the students are moving through the exam. So, I mean, the way that some students were cheating is that they were waiting for a while to actually start moving through the exam so that they could get help from their friends who were already like making more progress. And so if you see that somebody's really not doing any work for a period of time, that's also kind of a hint that something might be happening. And I did see that in a few cases, and I saw that again in the summertime. But as it turned out, that student just was like not prepared, and just lost.
The good thing that we need to think of is we have to be, I think, happy by having this experience, that to take the responsibility on the shoulder of faculty, that the big entities like the College Board or the Cambridge, they did not have their exams. So if these techniques would help them carry out the exams fairly, they would do the SAT exams or the IG exams, but they did not have the exams because they know that there is no way to guarantee. So I think having done the exams here is something good that we should be proud of, that we can run the exams and we can trust the results to some extent, because it's really hard to guarantee. It's very hard. And even when they asked for an email or letter to guarantee, I think it was not right, because I cannot speak about something that I don't see. So it's very hard to guarantee that. We can guarantee that we do our best, but there is no way for a perfect exam online.
Yeah. I mean, especially right now during the quarantine time in spring, particularly, people were isolated. But now that's not really the case. Now they may get their cousin to come and sit with them and do the test. Or in fact, students could, get together and do the exam at the same time, even if you enforce things like a reasonable time limit. Time, I think that's an important variable. Putting a reasonable time limit that will push them to do it quickly, and randomizing the questions, like my colleagues have already mentioned, and no backtracking. These are and writing good questions. So these are the 4 variables that you have control over. However, right now there's more freedom of movement, and people can come together. So how do you? I mean, maybe camera can help with that. So you see that they're at least not sitting with another person. But other than that, yeah, there isn't much that you can do, I guess.
I have a joke here just to share before the end of the meeting, that I got a question from the book, but I changed the numbers, and then one student just get the answer from the solution manual as the original question. So I asked him for an interview and said, you by the way, you solved a different question. From where you get this question? I said, oh, really? This was not the question? No, it was not. I said, because I memorized the solution manual. Okay, so they get you reasons that are really insane. This is why I said we have to be totally away from any written question. We have to innovate the questions. We have to change. We have to manipulate them.
Yes, Yusuf, do you want to say something? Is your mic working now?
Hi, everyone. I hope it is. Is it?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. First of all, I do feel like an outsider here. So I'll just introduce myself real quick. I work at AOS in the Office of Enrollment Management. Just as a feedback, we do receive a lot of complaints about students not liking the online and all of that. So as a student and working in the Office of Enrollment and all of that, I get different feedback, and I have my own feedback as a student. I love how everyone, I think Dr. Samir said at the beginning, that we need to change the way we teach, because if we continue the same way we do it face-to-face, it's not going to work, right? It's a different platform and so on. But again, I just want to talk about the exams part. I hate exams to start with. Coronavirus not involved, so I might be biased here, but I do believe, like everyone said, students try to outsmart the professors, and the professors try to outsmart the students, and it starts to be an outsmarting game, right? Because rather than students spending their time studying for the exam, they will try to find new methods, like everyone said, WhatsApp groups. Students try to crack how the responders work and so on, right? So it's really, I think it defeats the main purpose of the knowledge gaining throughout the course. And I did ask a question if it's feasible to change, as going back to the core point, we are changing how we do things because of it being online. So why not? And we already tried this in some courses, one of which is with Dr. Norita, probably not in an exam, but in the sense of cases. And in an exam, if you did get a question wrong, you're going to go back and see why it's wrong. Because I didn't do this. You wouldn't spend much time knowing what's the right way to do it. Maybe some would, but others won't. So it's a mistake done moving on. We wouldn't, or students wouldn't spend enough time knowing what's the right way of doing it and exploring the right solution, right? Although in a project, in an individual project, people really dig in to get the right solution. They spend more time to be more productive. And I think being more practical just causes the knowledge just to stick in there, you know, even after the course, because you have actually worked on it, especially if it's a proper individual assignment or a big project, reaching a proper outcome. Yeah, and I did notice last semester that some professors did shorten the time just not to give the students enough time, let's say, to cheat or so. As a student, I really don't think this is working. I think it's really unfair because if you really know the right time the student will take to finish the exam, then fine. But you don't really know that because students are different, right? Some students solve fast, some students need real time, like more time to solve. So putting this hard line of a time, I think it's going to be unfair to some of the students who, let's say, type slow, would like to take some more time to solve, and especially it adds stress. Seeing at the very beginning of the exam this much questions in this short time, it just adds the stress to the student. And you know, I want to solve this first. No, I want to solve that first, and it just creates this chaotic mental state. And I don't believe this is very beneficial from a student perspective. I think enough things for me. I'm done.
Thanks, Yusuf. It's always good to hear the
Yeah,
you know,
most
the
welcome.
perspective from the other side. I think that's you know, we need that feedback. There are just a couple of things I would add to that. First of all, like one thing I can tell you from the literature and education is that there's a very close relationship. Although you're right, there are individual differences between students. There's a really close relationship between the amount of time that it takes you to solve a problem or address an issue and your level of knowledge in that area. So one of the things that distinguishes experts, for example, from non-experts is their speed of processing, how quickly they can think through something. And you know, there's and so the corollary point to that also is that there's a trade-off here. Yeah, we would like to give everybody, you know, all the time that they need to demonstrate to us that they've learned the material. But if they start to get a sense that, well, half the class is cheating, then they're not going to use that time to do that. They're going to switch over to a different strategy, which is, you know, catching up on all the cheating that's going on. The other thing about stress is that I think what we, you know, maybe need to do in that respect is just help our students manage the stress of the exam question process, because stress is inevitable. You're going to have stress in job interviews. I mean, if you think, you know, I've had a lot of students who come out and say, you know, at university, and they're like, wow, like I thought exams were stressful until I went to my first job interview and I was a total wreck. So part of the point is just learning to manage stressful situations rather than trying to remove stress from the process. Of course, we're not like, I don't try to create a stressful atmosphere. I go through before my exams, I do a brief PowerPoint presentation where I tell students, here's exactly what's going to happen and what you can expect point by point in order to kind of, you know, bring that stress down and help them prepare for that. But they still have to face the stress.
True. And Dr. Samir, you're totally right.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Just to answer Dr. Samir, you're totally right. Well, yeah, I got your point. Just some professors, they seem, from experience, I mean, last semester we had a course and all the class ended up leaving 2 whole questions. No one was able to reach, you know, but yeah, totally right. Not too long, but the thing is, when is it enough time? That's where the trick is.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
if faculty needs to look at that, and if they see that literally nobody finished the exam on time, then they should.
Exactly. You know, Yusuf, this would be also a very nice strategy just to get the limits of the students, and then it depends on how much they will grade out of. Maybe these 2 questions would be totally eliminated All right. If no student touch the question, I definitely exclude the question because it's out of play. In that case, it will be fair. But if they keep grading out of all questions, for sure, it's unfair. I agree with you. Thank you very much. I think, Norita, that maybe this is the end of it, or what? It's almost 4.
Yes, it's a very rich discussion. I'm very, very happy that everything's going very well. I'm not supposed to be the moderator today. I mean, it's supposed to be Cindy. But yes, if anybody else have anything else, that you want to kind of wrap up the whole session, yes, please do that.
Yeah, we pray that we get back to normal.
Well, Narita, I don't know if not to prolong the discussion any further, but I think AUS should really be, if they haven't done so already, they need to be collecting data on a lot of these issues. What do the students think about their preference versus offline versus online, blended learning, these types of issues. So, I mean, for example, I surveyed my students in the summertime about Zoom versus Collaborate, and I asked them which platform do you prefer, because they've all used both platforms now. And they were, by a 3-to-1 margin, they were in favor of Zoom. And yet, the university isn't supporting Zoom. And so, and I'm guessing if you surveyed students across the university, you'd find the same pattern. And it was in 2 very different courses, one which was only psych majors and one which was a general education course.
Yes, we did. Actually, we did survey the student in the spring semester and also in summer semester. And
Okay.
you are right, most students prefer Zoom. But again, because we already have this contract using Blackboard as our LMS, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, I suppose. But one way to go about that is because I guess soon Google is going to add a lot more features to the meeting room. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to invite a few Google employees, the G Suite people, to come and talk to us about the different features that they have, since AUS already have the G Suite. So maybe it's going to be so much easier if we were to use that in the future. But again, I mean, it's not my decision. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Norita, is Google G Suite already accessible to us? Because I tried to download it this morning and I couldn't.
No,
Google G
it
Suite
is.
was
It's
not available
available.
for us.
Google G Suite is available, all the
For
different
us to
tools.
download, can you do that?
Yeah,
I tried
it's
it did not work. Okay. Cool.
Get in touch with IT. We should have access, all the faculty should have access to G Suite, and they have amazing features that definitely, if we were to use it in the right way, we can even collaborate and incorporate with Blackboard as well. So yeah, that's the next, I guess, maybe early October, I'm going to invite Google people to come and talk to us about that.
Nice.
I'm curious what the real reason is, though, for not getting the enterprise version of Zoom, because it's not the Blackboard issue. There are many universities that have the Zoom integration with Blackboard, and they have both the Blackboard, and Zoom Enterprise as well. I don't know if it's just like
really answer that question. I mean, yeah, that's something that the higher management people have to think about, obviously. Yeah, because
it's
we
good
already
that we have data, though.
Yeah, for sure. Raja, you have something to say?
No, it's actually I would like just to add about the challenge of avoiding minimizing cheating in our exams, especially now that we are online, and it's the balance of really now I can see that depending on the area of or the subject that you're teaching, many of us rely more on the multiple choice and the true false, and things that come out of a database or an exam view sort of place where of course it makes our life much easier as faculty. However, um, coming up with an alternative where students basically cannot outsmart us, because this is not a competition. We would just like to meet certain, learning outcomes. We make them to achieve those outcomes. then we really would like to see whether this is staying or whether we're going to move in the future into to a stage of blended learning where we still need to give online assessment, because this is it's really useful, and it looks like this is where we're going. Maybe the next session that I could see in the FDC planner, where we have avoid, I guess, cheating, that session that you're gonna be running soon. I hope that we, I'm honestly still baffled and looking for maybe a magical solution to this. I know that it's not gonna happen. At least, the more I hear about this, the more I feel like I still couldn't pinpoint, like a true recipe for giving an assessment where I feel like, okay, this is going to be the one where I'm going to know my F's and my D's and my C's and my B's and my A's. So hopefully that in the future, and the more sessions like this we going to have, someone will give us the magical,
Yeah. Let's hope for that. Yeah, because next week we're going to dedicate the whole session to talk about Respondus Monitor. So I can see that Mark, Ines, and even Summer, you guys already using Respondus Monitor, right? So maybe next week if you can come back and talk more about that, that's going to be wonderful, because we really need to explore that a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Cindy, back to you.
Okay, sorry for the confusion. All right, everyone, any further comments? There is Grace just mentioned a tool in the chat. I'm not familiar with it, but maybe somebody, if it's of interest to you for quizzes and tests, you might want to check out Socrative, it looks like. So,
are you referring to Socratic questioning, Grace? The different kind of question that we ask, kept on asking question. Is that what you mean?
Hi there.
Hi.
It is an application. It's called Socrative.com. You have multiple choices questions. You have questions where people can write their own answers. You have false, true questions. It's a very nice tool for quizzes, and like also when you open the class, you can use also like exit and entry ticket to a certain class. It's a very nice tool, but I'm not sure if you can have it as free. Maybe you need to have a subscription to it. I'm not sure, but it's a very nice tool. Check it out, Socrative.com.
okay. Okay, well, thank you for that. Any final comments? All right, well, a special thanks again to our speakers, to Oscar, to Ines, to our invitees, right? Oscar, Ines, and Summer. We do appreciate you joining us today. For everyone's feedback, we appreciate that. Thanks for being here on a Thursday. It's only the first week, but we're exhausted, I know. It's, yeah, thanks for the effort that you've put in for our students. Our students are the reason that we're here. We love being here for the students. And so, yeah, thank you just for your contribution. We appreciate it.
Don't forget to join us next week at 4 o'clock, not at 3. Sorry, we're moving the time to 4 o'clock.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. We appreciate it. A little cameo by Narita's.
That is Summer's daughter, by the way.
Look who's there.
Yeah, she was at his house. Now she's here.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.